3, 2, 1, testing.
We can hear you, which is great. Let's
Kia ora.
hope it holds.
Hurrah!
Ka pai.
Thank you all, and apologies for what has come. Hopefully, Councillor Turner and Newman will come back to the meeting as well. Could someone message, Tristan, would you be able to message Councillor Turner and say we're back and we can hear? Oh, Councillor Newman, are you able to speak to us? You're saying you can't mute? Unmute? So it worked for Councillor Philippine and Councillor Ferry.
We need someone else to speak.
Councillor Philippine, can we just check that you're there again?
Yes, affirmative. I logged out and just came back in. I think that what's worked, I think, for me anyway.
Kia ora. Councillor Newman did go in and out, but now he can't unmute, which is strange.
Kia ora, just confirming I did the same as Alf. Went out and then waited until we were reconvening and then came back in again, and you seem to be able to hear me okay.
Yes, kia ora, Councillor. And thanks for joining when you're unwell. Thank you. But Councillor Newman, you can't... Okay, he's going to go out and come back in. Right. Always fun times. Just wait 1 second, give Councillor Newman a chance to come back.
Doing a sound check. Can you hear me,
Yes,
Richard?
we can hear you now. Thank you, Councillor Newman. Right, we will
Okay.
just assume everyone else is on their way. I was just making sure those that were actually here on time could be heard, so you can now, Councillor Newman, thank you. Right, we will go to our Cultural Initiatives Funds, our Marae and Papakainga Development. We've got Ani and Peter and also Nick here to support, so kia ora and thank you very much. Also, just as a heads up, and I'll explain it at the end, there's just the 2 extra chairs recs on there to discuss the current review of these funds. Right, kia ora.
E ngā mana i ngā reo rauranga tira mā tēnā koutou, tēnā koe i te hiamana Councillor Hills, me te hiamana tuarua Councillor Dalton, tēnā kōrua i ngā mema o Haukura, tēnā kōrua, tēnā tātou. Ko Peter Kajobley, tōku ingoa. I am the Māori Outcomes Lead for the Community Directorate. Just introduce you.
Nā tātou e te whare. Aku mihi matukui kia koutou katoa. Ai ka tika me mihi atu ki a rātou kōrero atu ki te pō, nā whakamahara o te wā, moi mai rā oki ai. Kia koutou e whakakanohi ai i ngā ahika me ki o tēnā iwi kei wainganui a tātou te rānei, tēnā koutou. Ki ngā kaikainihira o te whare, tō tātou koro matua, kua ngaro haere, tēnā tātou. Ko ane makia tōku ingoa, he uri whakatipu au no tainui waka, no te iwi nui tonu o Waikato, sitting here as the Marae Advisor for Council, so very privileged to come and bring some of our work and place it in front of you all. Tēnā koutou.
Kia ora. And thank you, Nick, again. Right, if you just want to, you've got the presentation here, Peter, thank you.
Kia ora, Mr. Chair. Just letting you know, we also have Richard Court, Portfolio Manager, online ngā matarai, just in case we need to respond to any other questions. So just working through the slides, so just a quick summary of the purpose. So we're here to review and approve the Cultural Initiatives funding recommendations for marae development and Papakainga Māori housing for this financial year. A reminder of the fund overall, so it's a $1.2 million annual contestable grant round for both marae and Papakainga. It's part of the overall Māori Outcomes Fund, which was increased in the last LTP to 171 million, and works hand in hand or alongside the Marae Infrastructure Program. So overall, as part of the Māori Outcomes Fund, there is a targeted investment of $72 million over that LTP period. So while we're here talking about the Cultural Initiatives Fund, it's important to reflect on, I guess, the overall investment package that Council provides to support marae development and aspirations. Excuse me. There's also a growing support program in the resilience and recovery space, and also want to acknowledge the roles that local boards play in terms of supporting our marae through grants and also through really strong advocacy. The fund itself is really flexible, supports a range of things through the marae space, capital works, maintenance, and also planning, concept planning, business planning. In the Papakainga space, it's the majority of applicants are coming for planning regulatory costs. What it doesn't do for Papakainga is support any of the capital development costs. Important to note, I guess, the strategic enabler that the grant supports in terms of our commitment to the Auckland Plan to invest in marae to be self-sustaining and prosperous, and of course through Kia ora Tāmaki Makaurau, our Māori Outcomes strategic framework.
Tēnā koe, Pete. Wareware ki au ki te mihi atu ki a Pete, koro tahi e Nick. Really thankful to have this leadership and work alongside these two. So I get the privilege of talking a little bit about some of those successful recipients of the Cultural Initiatives Fund. We, through my correspondence and the whanaungatanga with Ngāti Wai o Aotea Kaua Marae, we were able to fund the upgrade of their solar panels. There was some an installation of a new generator, which really helps with their sustainability in terms of emergency management. And we were able to replace an outdated hot water system. So if you think about that in the bigger scheme of things, it's really enabled the marae to be self-sufficient and thinking about emergency management, which is kind of at the highest level of self-management. It's really helped them. So the next marae, which is Rere Te Whioi, who are, I don't have any updated photos of late, but the work has progressed considerably since these photos were taken, but they were also a successful recipient of the Cultural Initiatives Marae Grant in the amount of $142,500, and that was in support of their compliance fees, the capital works for this particular project, and that's to build a new wharenui for this particular marae. Tēnā koutou.
Kia ora, ni. This slide is showing total investment over a 6-year period of the Cultural Initiatives Fund. So to date, 20 marae have enjoyed support through this fund to the value of in excess of $6 million in total. This round we are recommending 4 new marae who will be first-time recipients if supported, and we have a marae network of around 40 marae in total, so we are reaching over half that marae network, and obviously we're very keen to be targeted in terms of those who might not be accessing, but there are a number of reasons for that. This also shows the balance between mana whenua and mātā waka marae. We are mindful of that in the background, and we're sort of fairly balanced in terms of a 50-50 split at this stage. Just a reminder, While it is an annual grant round, applicants can apply year on year, and as this shows, some have enjoyed successful applications multiple times. And so the assessment panel does consider that when assessing each year. This is the full list of marae applicants for this financial year. Sorry. So we received 18 applications in total, 14 for marae and 4 for papakainga, totaling nearly $2.3 million. So again, we were well oversubscribed. This financial year, we're recommending 8 of the 14 marae applications for full or part funding, which is on page 2 of the report, or in attachment C. There are a number of reasons for this, and unfortunately some of the applicants just lacked basic information like quotes, or just didn't meet funding requirements. One instance, the request didn't meet requirements of core infrastructure, and there are 3 applicants that are actively receiving support through the marae infrastructure program. So in the advice of our subject matter experts, it was agreed that we need to let that investment run its course before supporting new investment through the Cultural Initiative Fund. The assessment panel consists of 3 members, 2 staff and 1 independent contractor who is also a qualified quantity surveyor. And all applications are received through our Smarty Grants online grants portal, assessed individually by each member against key criteria and the guidelines, which are attached as A and B. Then all 3 assessors come together to reach a consensus on those who will be recommended for funding. The panel is supported with the SME advice from our marae advisor, who is a key relationship holder across the network of marae in Tāmaki Makaurau, and also our marae infrastructure program teams. These are the 4 applications we received for papakainga. However, we are not recommending any of these applications for funding this round. Again, the key reasons is they didn't meet funding requirements. We had 1 application that was withdrawn with a request for funding to be carried forward, as they weren't able to deliver their full project last financial year. We've also had 1 application asked to be put on hold pending a discussion about a more strategic approach to supporting their aspirations. Again, the assessment panel supported by SMEs from our Māori housing unit, who also assess the eligibility of each application and are critical in advising on the deliverability of projects as a whole. Some of these papakainga projects are really large and really complex in nature. So for recommendations this financial year, we are recommending 8 marae projects, again, 4 of which, if successful, will be first-time recipients to the fund, which is really positive. And we are not recommending any of the papakainga projects with rationale, again, in attachment C. This leaves just over 580k for this round, unallocated for this round. So to the recommendations, I want to be clear here, we're not here to provide the impression that the full fund is not required. Year on year, the fund has been well oversubscribed. The need is great, and council can't meet all those needs. What we have experienced in this round is really unusual and quite a unique situation, in that a number of applicants who met the funding criteria previously or provided basic information for some reason didn't this time. And that's been evidenced by the fact that they've received funding support in previous rounds. As previously mentioned, 3 applicants are still receiving active support through the marae infrastructure program, and because of the significant level of that investment, the assessment panel supported advice from SMEs to allow that investment to run its course, or we may create risk of double funding. Last year alone, the marae infrastructure program delivered $6.4 million of infrastructure improvements across several marae, and is in year 7 of a 10-year delivery program, aligned to the original LTP budget set in 2014. Included in the reports in paragraph 41 is reference to a review of the marae guidelines to ensure they remain fit for purpose and complement other investment programs that support marae development. This review is a priority and we will implement recommendations from that review before the next funding round. Paragraph 42 acknowledges that the mayoral proposal also signalled a review that the Māori Outcomes Fund, a review of the Māori Outcomes Fund as a whole should occur, so the two pieces of work are aligned. I want to finish here by saying that no recommendations are made lightly, and so staff have reflected on how we might better support future applicants. And so we are exploring setting up drop-in sessions and more one-to-one conversations with unsuccessful and future applicants to ensure they increase their chances of applying successfully in future rounds. Finally, next steps are fairly standard. Following the decisions of this committee, staff will provide an update to elected members and both successful and unsuccessful applicants. Funding agreements will be put in place with regular updated reports through the Smarty Grant system, and we require all recipients to acknowledge Auckland Council's support. Kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you. Thanks to the team as well. I know this is very a long process and quite a detailed one too, and I think that's especially important, that last few points around how we can resource and help people understand the process, or just there's an opportunity for them to ask questions so that we get to a point where applications are clear, then they can all be put up against each other rather than having to unfortunately remove or decline applications because of maybe not the full information being provided. So, but we understand that, and it's a good process. The other thing, if we just want to put up those last recommendations, they were just to acknowledge the broader point around the review, because there's been a number of questions in the past, and we've noted in number 6 around the questions that continue to come from Te Kauro Āmake around how maybe their wishes are slightly different to what we're able to do through these funds. There are many marae that are now upgrading their current facilities, but Te Kauro is one mana whenua group that do not have that ability, so they can, but the fund is capped out, so it doesn't allow that opportunity. So it's a bit hard for us to do that without that review or to have that conversation. So I just wanted to put that there, because I think there is a broader conversation that needs to happen, and that may be outside this funding or another way we can support them. So just want to make that clear. Member Wilcox first.
I mihi ana kia koutou I roto tēnei kaupapa. Mo hiana au I te taimahātanga o tēnei hakaritenga, nō reira nei te mihi ki aku I koutou. My first question is, and I suppose this is going to be part of the kaupapa that you deal with when it comes to outcomes funding and how this goes about. But mo hiana koutou, e tuana te marae hei rungi tōna ake mana motuhake. And I've got an issue with it being some kind of competition. So, irrespective of that, how do we go about ensuring that we don't end up one with toko maha mana marae all unfinished or processed through? Because one of our things, and you explained this to me in the infrastructure fund, was that it's not a competition. So when we're finished, we're finished. So I've got a kind of a question here, and the question is, so I would have thought that the solar heating and that kaupapa for kawa would have been infrastructure for the marae, or can you apply to both?
Tēnā koe. If I understand the question, can you apply to both the Marae Infrastructure Program and the Cultural Initiatives Fund? And essentially the answer is yes. One's contestable, one's non-contestable, but there's currently under the current settings, there's no restrictions for marae to draw from both investment funds.
My second question is, and nothing to do about the decision making, but one of the marae I see up there is in the Tamaki regeneration area. What are they stumping up? What is Tamaki regeneration stumping up for this? Because they are also, you know, if we're going to regenerate the whenua around it, we should be regenerating the marae as well, as we did with the library.
I think that's a fantastic whakaaro, and I'm sure advocacy from members such as yourselves would be great. I guess we manage council funds, and anything that Tamaki Regeneration Company kind of invests in sort of sits outside of our remit.
Yeah. Kia ora, Member Wilcox. I think that if it's appropriate, we could advocate somehow to TRC to support. Member Wilcox, you have another question?
Just the final one, and you know, coming from Rodney, I'm quite happy that I see quite a few marae in Rodney, but on the list, I think my concern is this an indication that most maraes in the rural areas are struggling?
It is good to see Rodney marae, some of which are new to the fund, of successful at the table this time. It's fair to say the challenges of rural marae are obviously different from those closer to the city, and we're experiencing that through the marae infrastructure program as well, where a far greater level of investment just needs to go, to be fair, sometimes into infrastructure below the ground, water, wastewater, and also we can never ignore our regulatory responsibilities, so sometimes we are having to fund systems into marae that previously they haven't had. Some of them are fire systems, but they're important health and safety requirements. So take your point, we acknowledge and are very aware of the challenges of our rural marae, and there are other investment programs, predominantly through our resilience and infrastructure teams, that are focused primarily on providing further support to our in this case, mana whenua rural marae.
Thank you.
Kia ora, Member Wilcox. So we've got a number of questions here. Councillor Foley is first.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Thank you so much for your presentation. Just a couple of questions. First of all, thank you so much also for having more of a balance with Matawaka marae, because that was always the issue for our marae out in Otara. So I'm really overjoyed to see that Ngāti Otara marae is included in the funding this time round. But just if you could elaborate a little bit more, because I can see two of the papakainga applicants are from Mangele Otahu, which is the other side of my ward. If you can elaborate the kind of support you were talking about in terms of supporting the unsuccessful applicants going forward and helping them to make sure their application next time is more successful. I know there was a lot of support put in place for Ngāti Otara from the local board, for example, so it'd be good to hear. Kia ora.
Tēnā koe, Councillor. So for the Te Waiao Family Trust, essentially the guidelines currently state that land in general title is not eligible. Those are settings that will be reviewed, but those are the current settings that we're working with. And so I guess one of the concerns that we reflect back on ourselves is that clearly understood by the applicants. There's also a matter of a lease arrangement that unfortunately we didn't receive kind of enough evidence of that being in place. The applicants are known to us. We know all the applicants, and certainly Ani's relationship with marae is extensive, as are a series of kaikoukiri that actually work across our business and who are nominated for various marae, including Ngāti Otara. So I think it is very much incumbent on us to have a one-on-one conversation with respect to that project to make sure that they can be successful next time. With respect to the other one in your local board area, again, they have enjoyed support from this fund more than once, and unfortunately, due to delays in the resource consenting process, we're unable to fully draw down their grant from last financial year. So they've still got in the vicinity of 90k still sitting in there, which will be supported for them to use in this financial year.
Kia ora, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Fully. Councillor Leone.
Kia ora, thank you so much for the kōrero, and I know it must have been a really challenging job to go through and make those decisions. I just wanted to get an idea. I know in F, obviously, we've got the review coming to the Māori Outcomes Political Working Group, but just given your experience to date, is there anything that you just wanted to give us an idea on at the moment what you think the issues could be?
I will speak specifically about the marae space, if that's okay. I guess, as I mentioned in the presentation, we're in year 7 of a 10-year program and on track to actually deliver to the targets that we said, which is a fantastic result and probably perhaps not as visible, certainly when we're talking about a distinct fund like cultural initiatives. I guess the challenge or opportunity for us moving forward is what are the future needs of marae? How do we actually support them to be more sustainable beyond council needing to just pump money into infrastructure? We've seen through COVID and of course the more recent adverse weather events how important marae are in terms of standing up, not just to support the general well-being of our communities, but also as emergency management centres. So there are a number of players across the council group who are really leaning into this space, and I think as part of the review of the fund, it's important that we understand what those future needs look like and potentially what the role of council could be other than just a funder. We have an enormous resource of project managers, so I'm sure that there will be some good new ideas in terms of how we support the future needs of marae moving forward as part of the overall Māori Outcomes Fund review.
Kapa, I know that's great, and I just really welcome the idea that you've put forward too of inviting others to come along to that kōrero when we do.
Thank you very much, Councillor Williamson. You might have had a stretch or a wave. All good. Councillor Filipina. Okay. No worries.
Tēnā koutou katoa e ngā rangatira. Firstly, I just wanted to tautoko what Peter said, Annie, and your relationship with the marae. Ngā mihi ki a koe, because I know that you have a strong relationship with all our marae, so ngā mihi. The first one I have is in regards to the recommendation that's on there, and it's C, for the reallocation of, I think it was 500,000 approximately, and for projects delivered by next year. So the first part is how much is in next year's round? How much pute is available?
Tēnā koe te rangatira, Alf. So we will still have the full fund of $1.2 million available for next year's funding round.
Okay, so the 500 would be only for those that will be delivered and won't be part of the 1.2 million?
That's correct.
Okay, so at least it'll be spent by the term. The other question, and I'm looking at the review. So the review was indicated through the LTP. Is that what you're saying, Peter?
Yes.
Okay. Chair, just one last one, and sorry, Chair. Yeah. So look, the last question I have, Peter. I know you used to, as in the cultural initiatives and Marae Infrastructure Fund, used to come through to previous committees via workshop because it was important to end up getting the applications in front of the committee And has there been an opportunity for that to happen, whether it be for this round or even for the Marae Infrastructure Fund?
Apologies, Councillor, just again trying to understand the question. So I understand previously we had drop-in workshops or had set up drop-in workshops with councillors prior to the actual committee meeting. So if you're referring to that, I'll take full responsibility for not holding those, and generally it's just to do with availability of time. But my wiser colleague here, and Ani, has advised me that those were something that were really helpful previously. We're more than happy to reinstate those next year if that's something that is of interest.
Okay. Thank you, Chair, and I just reserve the right to speak, and I will. Kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you, Councillor. Yes, I would support that reinstatement, and I know that on most things, when we ask at the moment, we're getting refused on workshops. So the very least a drop-in or briefing would be helpful. But I think also with the review process, it would be good to link some of that together, because I think it would be good for all of us to understand, because I know it did come through the LTP, but also the Māori Outcomes Working Group for the review, but also through questions from Member Ashby in the past at this committee, because of issues like the cap. Why is there a cap on this fund when there isn't on our sports and rec infrastructure funds, things like that. So those are policy decisions in the past, but we need to figure out how, if this committee is keen to change those things, how we can do that in a democratic way, but with the advice. Kia ora. Member Ashby.
Kia ora, thank you, Chair. First, kia ora, Ani, Nick, Peter, thank you for the report. Always good to get money out the door to marae. Just two questions from me on the same theme, and thank you, Chair. You sort of covered part of it, really. But in terms of the review, I'm interested in that and the scope of that. And there's sort of two issues specifically. One is the cap, which we've talked about in the past, and it needing to be fit for purpose. I guess the competitive nature of it means that it was set at a low level, which is good for some things, but obviously not for others. So I'm just interested that is captured and carried through, and I guess to turn that into a question, I'm just double checking that's on your radar. And then the second one is we will be coming as Haukura back with a position on these things, but one of the things that we're looking to advocate for is a policy differentiating iwi marae from Mātāwaka marae, because that gets confused in the I think in council, but certainly around the public as well. And I guess just also checking, is that in your radar and in your thinking?
Certainly, it's well within the scope of the review to look at that cap and see if it is fit for purpose. I guess my understanding, having only been in this space for a couple of years, it probably was appropriate when we go back 6 or 7 years, when the fund wasn't so well known and probably wasn't fought over to the same degree in terms of being contestable. Sorry, your second question was around the... Oh, yes. I guess all I can say in regards to that is what we are unfortunately lacking is any marae policy. So there is absolutely an appetite to rectify that. There have been previous attempts to set up a marae policy, and again, I believe the challenge was very much to do with just internal resource. There's been a number of changes across the council since then, so certainly with the support of our Tumuaki and the wider Ngā Mātarai team, we'd like to push forward with advocating for that far more strongly.
Thank you. I think you can all step back from the table. We'll go into debate, but kia ora again, and thank you for the work that has gone into this, but also the work after this. I know that, yeah, the relationships are really good with our marae, and that you'll be working with them on these grants if we pass them, which I'm sure we will get support through this committee now. Kia ora. Right, Councillor Filipaina would like to speak to this. Sorry, I moved and Councillor Leone second, but happy for you to move if you'd like to move, Member Wilcox. Councillor Filipaina, sorry about that.
Kia ora, Chair. Look, congratulations to the team. As I mentioned with the part of this particular agenda item, just want to mihi to all of them, but in particular, Ani, with her relationship with all our marae, not only with this particular fund, but also the marae infrastructure, and Peter with all the work that you do. Chair, my concern is, and it's always been a concern of mine, is that firstly, I need to acknowledge yourself and your Deputy Chair, Councillor Dalton, and I acknowledge you, and the efforts that you have been trying to get space in the calendar to have sessions, whether it be workshops. Workshops are better. But, you know, I know that you both have been trying. So the advisory committee or advisory space that you have, that needs to be looked at, because I'm going to just digress for a few seconds, and that is in regards to the OPEX funding that we had the drop-in session, but also with the investment session, and both times you wanted to end up having a workshop, but this advisory committee said no, there's not enough time. There is sufficient time, and it's important that funding application, but more importantly, the funds that we have like this and our events one is shared with the whole of the committee through a workshop, not a drop-in session. So I support the efforts that you have made. Chair, in regards to this particular fund, I just want to acknowledge two things. One of them is the fact that the staff, our kaimahi, end up having sessions, drop-in sessions with the applicants, just to explain to them, look, this is why you missed out on the fund for these reasons, whether it be because you've already received fund from a Marae Infrastructure Fund and this particular one, but you have the ability to apply. And the second reason is because even though there is a $21 million increase in the LTP, that's 21 million over 10 years, and it doesn't kick in till, I think, my understanding, the fourth year of this current LTP. So from my perspective, there's 4 years that marae, and especially looking at this agenda item, knowing that we were again oversubscribed in regards to applications for funding. So, Chair, I am supporting you and your Deputy Chair as much as I can with my considerable 162k weight behind you to support you around having workshops, because these applications are very, very important for our community. Ngā mihi ki a koe te rangatira. So thank you, Hermana. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Councillor Filipaina, and endorse everything you just said, and Councillor Dalton and I would appreciate your support going forward on our requests for that type of engagement on these important issues. So kia ora. Are there any other speakers? Oh, Member Wilcox. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Or just your mic switched off somehow. Yep.
Again, I e tautoko anau i te rangatira, i te whanaunga e Alf. E tautoko anau i a koe. I'd just like to support what Councillor Alf has just said. I think this is a great initiative that the Auckland Council has done, and it's gratifying to see that we were able to winkle a little bit more cash out of the LTP. Marae are institutions, and they're one of our few New Zealand institutions that have been kind of left in the dark for so many years. So it's great to see the Auckland Council attempting to try and redress and correct what has been a forgotten group of buildings and institutions that are peculiarly New Zealand. The second part to that is that marae are not buildings, they're people. And our relationships are always with the people of those marae. And because of that, it's important, I think, that we realise that people in this, that look after marae, should not be placed in a contestability situation. And so when you do review this kaupapa, I'm hoping that we can find a way around this so that we can actually have a staged effect for marae, and so that they're not in the situation, because there's only going to be more marae, not less. As our population grows, there will be more marae in Auckland. And I think the last one we had was the Headinga Waka in Silverdale. But, you know, we've already got applications from different mana whenua and mātā waka to build marae. And so we should be expecting that there'll be more call on council. I'd also just like to mention, I think, for me, is that outside of council shouldn't be kind of left out as well, because my reason for bringing up the Tamaki regeneration was actually things are occurring and projects are occurring, and these organisations too must take some role in ensuring that their local institutions and their local marae are supported. And so that's the reason I brought up the Tamaki regeneration. Not to say I don't want Ruapōtaka marae to have it, because I do. I support that marae wholeheartedly, and I support this. So I do say to the officers, thank you very much for a really hard job, and it's not easy. Nō reira, tēnā te koutou katoa.
Kia ora, Member Wilcox. Thank you very much. Were there any other speakers? Awesome.
No, kia ora to the staff. I just want to acknowledge you for the mahi, and really just to say that I know across Tamaki Makaurau, this is a very much celebrated fun when I do talk to whānau out in the community, and they've spoken really highly of the mahi that Auckland Council are doing here. So mihi to you all, and really look forward to the mahi coming forward with the review and having the kōrero about the underspend or the funds that are there. So kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you. And just last comment from me, this is another fantastic investment in our marae across Tamaki, but I do think the review is extremely important. It's time, especially the infrastructure fund and this fund together, how we can make better use, but also, you know, change the way forward. I think when we don't have caps for other funds, it does make a discrepancy that is quite glaring, and it doesn't give opportunities to marae, new marae, especially. It is quite a separate thing to upgrade your current marae and use this funding, or trying to start from the ground up, as some of our applicants apply to. So I think it will be really important that we have that conversation together quite soon. So kia ora. And last comment, Councillor Bartley. Oh, and Councillor Sayers now. Cool. Kia ora, Councillor Bartley.
Oh, kia ora, Chair. Thank you. Just wanted to acknowledge Peter, Ani and Nick and the work of the team in this fund, and also wanted to support it, and also acknowledge the work of the various marae in our areas, because when we've gone through major events, the marae have been a centre point of support. With COVID, with food poverty, with the floods. So really acknowledge what our marae do in our communities, and also in regards to Tamaki, respect what IMSB Haukura, IMSB member Wilcox is raising, but also noting that it doesn't take away from the responsibility that Council has to support the marae development in our area, even if there is a developer currently redeveloping that area. We still have a responsibility, and I want to see the Council maintain that responsibility in supporting our maraes. Look forward to the review. And I hope it does bring up that discrepancy where we have other facilities, investment funds that are in the multi-millions that have different policies than what seems to be quite restrictive with this fund. So yeah, thank you, Chair and Deputy Chair.
Kia ora, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Sayers.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just want to speak in support of two things that I heard in the presentation. One was around the education and giving feedback to the applicants that weren't successful. You know, a lot of these marae have personnel involved that are on a voluntary basis. A lot of work and energy goes into these things, and sometimes it's not always fully understood. And I think the courtesy of having that feedback given back to people who have gone to that effort is important. Secondly, is around the proactivity that I heard that we are prepared to. I'm pleased we've got the resource and the willingness to be prepared to proactively approach those who have not yet applied for the funds for similar reasons. You know, volunteers may not know the full scope of things, but I think if they hear from an Auckland Council officer, you know, contacting them and going out and making the effort to engage, that would greatly, I suspect, that would greatly encourage the effort that's required to actually make those applications. So on both those points, I just want to speak in support. Thank you.
Kia ora. Thank you, Councillor. Right. All those in favour? Any opposed?
Aye.
No. That is passed. Thank you very much. Right, we move on to our Parks and Community Regional Capital Investment Work Programme.